MobLand is a 2025 gangster drama set in the UK which stars Tom Hardy, Pierce Bronson and Helen Mirren. Tom Hardy plays Harry, who's something of a chief enforcer or security man for a powerful mob family headed by Pierce Bronson's Conrad Harrigan and his wife Maeve, played by Mirren. The story kicks off with Conrad's grandson Eddie, an obnoxious piece of work moulded in the image of the likes of Joffrey from Game of Thrones. Entitled, reckless and psychopathic heir to the throne kind of thing. But he goes to a club with his mates and he happens to also take along with him Tommy Stevenson, son of Harrigan crime family rival mobster Richie Stevenson, played by the ever-durable tough guy actor Jeff Bell. If their fathers knew they were out together they would be infuriated, but Eddie doesn't care much. At the club, Eddie ends up stabbing someone and naturally chaos erupts, everyone running for the exit. Tom Hardy's Harry is sent in to clean up the mess, forcing the club owner to delete CCTV footage, for example. But in and among the confusion, Tommy, the son of the rival mob boss, has disappeared. Is he lying low? Is he in trouble? Did Eddie do something to him? Is he dead? These are the questions Harry must deal with as he scrambles to find Tommy before his father, Richie, blames the Harrigans and starts a war between the two families. So a fairly generic setup, but the story quickly evolves as it goes on. Just to summarise my thoughts on the show, I went in fairly ambivalent and rather on the disinterested side. The trailer looked like a bunch of generic gangster scenes strung together to try and give off the classic Guy Ritchie wacky crime caper vibe. Ritchie, whose name is slapped all over the marketing, but as far as I'm aware, he only directed 2 out of 10 episodes and had an executive producer credit. And to be honest, I'm at a stage where I don't think films and TV shows should be using Ritchie's name for marketing. Quite frankly, he seems to be involved in 3 films at any given time, and I've heard he's become very hands-off. But that's a discussion for another day. The point I'm making, as a big fan of Tom Hardy, it still looked like a show where some big-name actors would phone in their performances for a quick buck. But I have to say, I really enjoyed MobLand. I thought it was overall a fine little show, engaging, restrained but with dark humour and characters that are off the wall but believable within the context of the show. I found myself having a great time with the show. I'm seeing some reviews online and I'm starting to think I'm the only person who actually liked the show. It doesn't look like a lot of people have seen it and even less like it, having written it off as either boring or nonsensical schlock. And I guess it does get a little schlocky, I'll get to that, but calling it boring is a bit unfair. In fact, the smaller scale of the story is what was keeping me invested. Like Tom Hardy's cleaning up of the club fiasco. He has to deal with the club owners and forces them to remove the evidence of Eddie's crime. He talks to people who could potentially point him to Tommy's whereabouts. He speaks to a contact within the police department to find out which hospital the stab victim is recovering in, and then gets to him and intimidates him into silence before he's questioned by the police. These are really small GTA-style side mission-esque plot points, but I enjoyed this element of the show a lot. It gave it a small-scaled, believable feel. Towards the latter half of the show, it does start to go off the rails a bit with its scope and its logic. The scope thing is understandable in the grand scheme of things. It feels like there are things being set up for a new season, already greenlit by the way, to push the story to a higher scale. The logic thing is a bit disappointing though. For a show where everyone is playing chess and you don't know everyone's agenda, everyone starts acting a bit doolally towards the end of the show. It's a show of 2 halves really. The first 5 episodes were really good. It was all about that missing kid and the potential fallout with his father about to start a war. There's this tense atmosphere in the air with time being of the essence, and where the show could have cut corners with generic gangster show tropes, it instead chooses to prioritize the human element. For example, minor spoilers here for the first few episodes, there's a scene where a senior mobster is phoned and informed by a rival that someone close to him died, and instead of doing the "you're fucking dead meat" or "I'm coming for you and your whole family," he just breaks down right there and then, failing to keep it together. You really do get a sense of his grief and despair, and you forget that he's supposed to be the quote-unquote bad guy, and instead you see a man mourning a loved one. And within that 5-episode run, the story is wrapped up nicely. A one-off 5-episode run of a small-scale crime drama starring some veteran actors with an albeit uninspired title. Nothing you haven't seen before if you're well vested in the gangster genre, but a solid romp. But then one character, a character who's incredibly petty, narcissistic, downright psychopathic, and quite frankly stupid throughout the duration of the show, does something petty, narcissistic, and quite frankly stupid. And the beef between the two families is back on. And the second half of the show, whilst containing some excellent scenes, is like the writers of the first half decided to take some crack before they finished the script for the second. Tom Hardy is good in his role as the subdued, loyal enforcer who is containing his irritation at the stupid antics of his lunatic employers. It's one of those roles where he grunts a lot. I think was his catchphrase in the show, and let's be honest, he could have played the role in his sleep, and if we want to be extra critical, he was essentially wasted in the role, as there isn't really much for him to do. Like a character says to him, "You standing there with that fucking look on your face." Pierce Bronson looked like he was having the time of his life in his role as the head honcho, a man with a brutal past and warped sensibilities, but starting to lose his grip on his empire, and deep down he knows it. He has a really strong Irish accent and never misses a chance to chew the scenery like it was a thick, juicy turkey rasher. He was really fun to watch. It was colourful theatre, but he never went past the red line of becoming cartoonish. There was always an element of dangerous threat to him. He actually takes the material and really moulds a character from it. I forgot I was watching Pierce Bronson. Helen Mirren was okay as the scheming, conniving old Lady Macbeth bitch that the show wants you to hate with relish, though her Irish accent was as hammy as a character's decision making. Jeff Bell was great, as already mentioned, but the star of the show was Paddy Considine, playing Pierce Bronson's son Kevin. Paddy's got ample opportunity to flex his acting chops in the show, playing a character who's involved in the family business, but has distance between himself and his father, and a traumatic past that is delved into heavily. I think he's quite famous now, what with his role in House of the Dragon, but Paddy's been around for a long time now. I remember being wowed that the same fearless former soldier in Dead Man's Shoes was the same comic relief in Hot Fuzz, and here he adds another solid entry to his resume. I was positively surprised at times. There's one part where two characters are tied up, about to be chainsawed, with Hardy rushing to arrive at the scene and save them. It's perfectly set up for him to burst in at the last minute and mow everyone down with an AK, but he doesn't actually get there in time, and one of the characters is chopped up. Alright, sure, it was the character least important to the story between the two that were about to die, but it still was a surprise. There's another bit where a female with questionable loyalties is used as a hostage by a villain. Put your guns down or she gets it kind of situation. And Tom Hardy just shoots the pair of them. Sometimes it's just refreshing watching gangsters be gangsters. MobLand has a good thing going for it. If it remains a relatively low-key crime drama, I think we've got something solid here. I preferred it to the Gentleman series that came out a few years ago. But if it veers into international crime rings and espionage or whatever, it's not going to end well, and it doesn't look like the show is going down that route. The series doesn't help itself at times. There's a car chase early on, for example, where it's shot on location, the cars are clearly real, there's no moronic CGI, there's weight to the cars, your brain knows what you're watching is real, and therefore it's engaged. But then I don't know why. I guess the series just lacked confidence in itself, but it just ruins the chase with horrible quick cuts. I mean, take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cuts in a row. Ridiculous. Like I said, the story felt done after the 5th episode. After that, it felt like it was being propelled by a single character doing insane, stupid things, causing trouble, which means Tom Hardy has to come in and save the day, usually with intimidating grunts, punching people, or revealing he's got incriminating evidence on them. It's a repetitive formula, and in order to combat this sense of fatigue, he does fail on one occasion, that bit with the chainsaw, and his method of rescue is switched up at one point where he takes on a group of goons single-handedly. But that's the thing, this never felt like a show where Tom Hardy would turn into Rambo, nor an old-school detective who joins the investigation only to be in league with the baddies, nor police officers to be murdered by criminals, and it seemingly not being the biggest news in the UK for like 20 years. Like I said, it felt like it was starting to veer off the tracks in the second half. Maybe because they ran out of script and needed to fill that runtime to hit 10 episodes. It's not often British shows outstay their welcome, so I wonder if this was a Paramount Plus decision. It does start to feel a little stretched. Bronson has 2 more kids, by the way, who go off into a business venture completely unrelated to the main storyline, and it results in shenanigans. And you think to yourself, these 2 characters could easily have been deleted and we'd just have a tighter show. There's a rat in the family, and when it's revealed, after there being so many suspects, so many characters, I was like, wait, who is this character again? There's this woman, Kat McAllister, who has a dangerous aura about her and who Tom Hardy phones up when he's in dire need of a deus ex machina. But it's never explained who she is. Part of some black ops, maybe CIA, MI6, an American politician involved in trafficking. Paddy Considine's wife has a storyline involving some deal with a Frenchman, a Syrian arms dealer, and her politician father, which has very little payoff. There's all these little plots and characters that are just hanging about and really needs addressing in the forthcoming season. If you snipped all those little stories away, with all the extra side characters, and just focused on the likes of Pierce Bronson, his immediate family, Tom Hardy, I think you'd have a solid 5, 6, 7 episode show. All in all though, it does get a thumbs up from me, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next, where the show goes on from here. So what do you make of MobLand? Let me know in the comment section below, subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.